In the last High Elf battle replay, we have showcased the kind of missile power that the now discounted High Elves can bring, but in this replay sent in by Lord Norm, we'll be focusing a bit more on the melee aspect. Yes, there are a lot of shooty units here, archers, Lothern Sea God, but we do have a rather elite infantry force on this battlefield. A whole front line of Silverin Guard, 3 of them in fact backed up by double Phoenix Guards. That's a lot of anti-large pointy sticks combined with all these Lothern Sea Gods with shields. Now, for the mobility, we have one single Illyrian Reavers as well as a single Lion Chariots of Trace. For the High Elf Lord, we have Tackless here, bringing quite a few spells and items on his horse, including Sword of Tackless, Regrowth, Net of Amentok, and the Bound Fiery Convocation. Also Potion of Shiroi for a bit of self-heals. For their opponent here, the Dark Elves, a very standard mobility force here, a lot of Scourge Runner Chariots, and at the back a whole lot of mobility as well, seeing that High Elves usually lack the ability to deal with armored mobility. We have double Cold One Knights and also a bunch of Dark Riders with shields. For the Dark Elf infantry, we have a much weaker front line when compared to the staunch lines of armored spears and halberds of the High Elves, with only Bleak Swords, a rather light armored infantry with not amazing stats, and also some Black Arquebusiers backing up them behind. Leadership, we have a single Malice Darkblade here, of course bringing his full kit, a powerful duelist, and then supported by a sorceress of dark magic with only Chill Wind and Blade Wind for those area of effect damage. And yeah, that's basically it for the army builds. Now let's get the battle started and see these two nemesis clash in battle. With the recent price cut to the High Elf infantry, there is all the more reason to go mass infantry spam against single entity sniping factions like the Scourge Runner Chariots from the Dark Elves, especially now that those anti-large armor-piercing missiles would not find a good target, as the leadership here, Tackless, moving back so that the Silverin Guards and the Lothern Sea Gods with shields can absorb most of that firepower from the Scourge Runners. While on the flanks here, Dark Riders will be running around, hoping to go for a flanking maneuver, but it will be quite a bit of distance before they get to the front line. While the Chillwind here did some nice damage to the Lothern Sea God due to their lack of armor, and at the same time, the High Elf Archer line will be opening up onto the Dark Elf infantry, especially against the Black Arquebusiers. Yes, they have AT armor, but the missile strength on these Lothern Sea Guards should not be underestimated. Same goes for the archers, and the lack of shields really biting them in the butt right now, as they are taking massive damage while they approach those High Elf frontline here. Bleak Swords clashing into Silverin Guards, and Black Arquebusiers here, after being charged by the armor-piercing Lion Chariots, they are quickly routed due to that fear attribute, debuffing their leadership. Now, Black Arquebusiers taking substantial damage before they can reach those Lothern Sea God. They will do some minor impact damage, but unfortunately, with all that Lothern Sea God shooting away, they are quickly routed. The Dark Riders really should have been here much earlier to disrupt those archer lines, but unfortunately, they take way too long to envelope these High Elf formations, and now the Black Arquebusiers are completely shattered. Malice Darkblade though charging into combat, hoping to silence those archers. This forces the High Elves to turn and engage, allowing the Dark Shards now to hammer home into this one-man anvil. Same goes for the Dark Shards on the other side here. Not much of an anvil, but they still would do some really good impact damage into the archers. While at the back here, Scourge Runners still just firing away. Not a lot of good targets to shoot at. Now that Tackless is here, they should start shooting at Tackless on his horse, but unfortunately though, being debuffed by the Plague of Rust upgraded version, the Lothern Sea God will do some substantial damage here, chipping away the health of these now light armored Scourge Runners. While over here, Tackless overextended a bit by himself and will take some decent damage, but a Potion of Shiroi, a nice timely healing with a bit of damage resistance buff, will be quickly topping up his health once again. The Dark Elf player doing a good job spamming those dark magic spells, using Blade Wind and Chill Wind constantly to thin out those High Elf numbers and HP. While the spells are effective AoE damage, the Silverin Guard does have the armor and more importantly spell resistance to mitigate the damage from those spells, especially against the armor-piercing Chill Wind. While the Lothern Sea God might be afraid of the spells, The other High Elf elites can simply heal all those damage back up with an Earth Blood or Regrowth. At the back here, Bleak Sword's getting into Silvern Guard and Loathern Sea God, hoping to silence them, but unfortunately that is not exactly effective. The Sorcerers of Dark Magic and Malus Darkblade hoping to hunt down Tactless, but Tactless on his steed is way too fast. While at the back here, Cold One Knight hoping to charge down the Loathern Sea God, but a nice timely net, pinning them in place, exposing them to a lot of those Loathern Sea God and Archer Fire, chipping away their health, especially with Phoenix Guards catching up, and they will be hacked down in close combat. While over here, Dark Riders finally breaking these one unit of Ilarian Reavers. They are needed in elsewhere right now, and they will be flooding forward, hoping to silence the Loathern Sea God, who are now turning around to engage, planning to use their anti-large spears to poke down these slightly armored Druchii Riders. You can see that at this point of battle, the Dark Elves are running out of infantry and cavalry. The Bleak Swords can't overcome the Silvern Guard's defenses and are slowly grind down. The only cavalry are some Dark Riders, as the Cold One Knights are cut down by the Phoenix Guards earlier. The one remaining Black Corsairs are routed by the Silvern Guard, being outlasted by the tankiness of those superior 54 melee defense and heavy armor. Now the Dark Riders tries to disrupt the Metal Caster, but unfortunately the Phoenix Guards are close to support. Scourge Runners charging into infantry, hoping to use their anti-infantry bonus to their advantage. But alas, they're taking quite some damage from the Silvern Guards and the Loathern Sea God's anti-large here. Chillwind drops in once again, doing some chip damage to the Loathern Sea God, nothing too substantial. It was enough to rout them off, but it's not a big deal, as there are more Loathern Sea God in place. One down and two will take its place, already turning around and firing at their foes. The Scourge Runners hoping to pull themselves out of combat, playing bumper car with the Lion Chariots, but unfortunately the armor piercing on the Lion Chariots and the mass will be their doom, as they are now caught up by more anti-large infantry. Malus Darkblade still trying his best, charging around, but he is more of a duelist character and is unable to deal with this kind of mass infantry spam. And if we look at the entire battlefield, the Dark Elves no longer have any infantry to provide buffer for their characters and mobility. Phoenix Guard rushing into combat once again, hoping to pin down the Scourge Runners in place, as the Lion Chariots were delaying the Scourge Runners from extracting themselves. Cold One Knights regrouping, charging into the Lion Chariots. Once again, their armor piercing and anti-large would be quite useful, but they're so battered right now, they won't be making much difference in the engagement. On the far side, some Phoenix Guards, after chasing away some routed units, they are almost full health actually, will be returning to combat, but there's not exactly much need of them right now, as the High Elves are already gaining an upper hand. Scourge Runners still firing at the highest value target they can find. They really should be focusing on Tactless, but they will be shooting at the Phoenix Guards. Not exactly the worst target, but not the best either, as most of that damage potential are wasted on the Phoenix Guards infantry models. And now they'll be shooting at Loathern Sea God due to them being on fire at will, pulling them out of combat as they are now completely out of ammo. Now charging into the Silvern Guard, hoping to break these High Elf spears with their anti-infantry bonuses. But unfortunately, those leadership and also heavy armor means that it will take them some time to break this unit, while the rest of the High Elf infantry and the mobility are just getting topped up in terms of health. A regrowth from Tactless healing these Phoenix Guards up, who still have 76 models, and that means most of the healing won't be wasted. On the far side, Phoenix Guard routing off some remaining Cold One Knights who are tied down, chasing off some routed Silvern Guard, while over here Loathern Sea God dragging down Malus Darkblade. Yes, Malus has the healing, but the anti-large does add up, and Malus Darkblade will be forced to extract himself from this combat. Chillwind drop in once again, chipping away the health of the Phoenix Guards and the Loathern Sea God. The spell does have 100% armor piercing, but it just simply do not have that burst damage to overcome the healing. The Lion Chariots pushing away some Scourge Runners. It is slightly slowed down by the Chillwind earlier, but nonetheless it would not be making much of a difference here, as Malus Darkblade is now forced to engage the elite Phoenix Guards. Seeing how many High Elf units they need to fight through: Lion Chariot, anti-large armor piercing halberds, the Phoenix Guards, Silvern Guards, and also being shot at by a whole bunch of Loathern Sea God's arrows. Despair has overwhelmed Malus' heart, and before he can even transform into Zargan, he has conceded the defeat. GG to both players, and big thanks to Lenorm for sending in this replay. When we look at the battle performances, we can see that between the price cuts on the High Elf infantry and also the buff to their martial mastery, martial prowess, it is very hard to challenge the High Elf front line from the front at this point. The Bleak Swords and the Black Arc Corsairs all did poorly against the heavily armored and also boosted defenses of a staunch, sturdy line of spears, of Phoenix Guards and Sylvan Guards. And with them delayed by all these shields and pointy sticks, the arrow fire from the Lothern Sea God and archers are able to make short work of these poor Dark Elf infantry, while the Scourge Runner chariot, despite earning quite a bit of value from shooting at all these Phoenix Guards and whatnot, it is actually not exactly an efficient use of their ammo. They should have been shooting at something, say, Lion Chariots or Dragons in the skies. But Allah's cheaper infantry means that the High Elves can field a much wider front line to screen away at the skirmishing fire of the Dark Elves. As for the leadership here, Mage of Metal didn't really do any damage due to the fact that they're spending all their winds of magic on Plague of Rusts, while Tacklers utilizing his spell support with the Fiery Convocation, but unfortunately most of it missed. So it all comes down to the healing support of Regrowth as well as the Net of Amantok pinning down the Cold One Knights, allowing the shooty backline and the pointy front line to cut down these Cold One Knights, focus them down. The other Cold One Knights got some more kills, but still, there are not a lot of good targets to fight, mostly just archers and Illyrian Reavers. Now, unfortunately for the Dark Elves, the only way for them to challenge the High Elves here is to utilize the Blade Wind and Chill Wind, especially Chill Wind, a great use of the spell here, constantly spamming those armor-piercing damage on the Phoenix Guards and whatnot, in comparison to Mala's pathetic performances being stuck on elite defensive infantry. While the rest of the units here, the Dark Riders managed to disrupt quite a bit of archers, but that's basically it. Anyways, that is the end of today's battle. Once again, big thanks to Lenorm for sending in the replay. And viewers, I hope you enjoyed this battle. If you do, remember to hit the like and subscribe to receive updates whenever I upload new videos. And if you have your own replays that you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tacticalich, signing out.